The whole retired hero making a life for themselves or coming out of retirement in order to deal with a problem is kind of a storyline that I typically find pretty interesting, and this is another one of those. It's called Slayers of Old by Jim C. Hines. I will say that I didn't originally realize it was going to be so modern day, because I think I associate the word hero with like much more fantastical settings, I guess, but this story is set in modern day Salem, Massachusetts, and it's a version of the modern world where a lot of the lore around supernatural beings and magical creatures is basically all true. As far as I can tell, I don't think most people are aware of the magical elements around them, but also doesn't really seem as though it's a big secret, more that there just isn't a huge amount of interaction a lot of the time because not everyone can see the supernatural or really understand like how it works and stuff. So this story follows 3 different main characters in rotating first person. Like all of them have in their past done quite a bit in terms of like saving the world and so on, but they're all getting old and have decided to spend their retirement years together in the wizard's house. Like they're running a bookstore called Second Life Books. The first main character is called Jenny. So she used to be a hunter of Artemis. Like a lot of the gods and stuff are real too. So she derives, I guess, certain abilities and stuff from her goddess through things like a prayer. And she actually does speak with Artemis, and Artemis will speak back. Like I kind of like how she actually kind of comes across in this one as a mother figure to the main character with all the pros and like cons that that relationship can entail. But she left her hunter days behind quite some time ago, like because of mistakes, I guess, that she felt she made in not making certain decisions and stuff for herself. Like it's, violence isn't her choice of how to deal with things anymore, and she's working very hard to make a different path for herself. So let's see. Character number 2 is Annette. Like she is a half demon, like she's half succubus, and it sounds like she had a pretty tumultuous history too, but it eventually led her to being someone who dealt with a lot of major like demonic issues and other stuff like that. Like she's done the kind of world saving that people actually write about in history books, but now she's mostly preoccupied with trying to build a good relationship with her son and her grandchildren, like all of whom it always feels like she's not really making good choices with, because like there's the whole when or when not to tell them that they are part demon, and like how to explain that process to people who are growing up. And it sounds like she was probably a really workaholic kind of mother who often wasn't really around for her son, and that's created a really, really rocky relationship that she still often feels quite a lot of guilt about. So lastly, there's Temple. Like he is a really famous wizard, but now is like 99 years old and definitely no longer in his prime. But they're all living in his house, which is where he derives a lot of his power. And so there are a lot of things about the house that are helpful features, like the house will provide for them, like when it knows what they want. It'll rearrange itself in order to meet their needs. And it's also their main protection and so on. So you could say the story technically begins when there's an attack on a magical creature called a harvester by what looks like an amateur, but an amateur who knows enough to actually cause harm. And also a lot of Temple's magic, like the protectiveness of the house and so on, is starting to fail, which should not actually be possible. But as they start to look into these things and encounter young people and stuff who are like trying to attack them and possibly getting involved in occult rituals and stuff that they may or may not really understand. Like they find that maybe they can't really stay in retirement if they want the world to stay intact this time around. But it also kind of gets all tied into, well, mostly the 2 women's histories, I guess, not as much the wizards. But yeah, let's see. not quite as epic, I think, as that description may not make it sound. Like, it's a pretty low-key kind of investigation where they, talk to people and kind of resist needing to get back into the action of things, and their pasts come back to bite them sometimes and things like that. Like, there's quite a bit of humor that I do appreciate. Like, in the very first incident, for instance, like I said, harvesters eat things like dead bodies and so on. So when the wizard, like, after he heals it, like, he tells the other characters that, like, they need it's going to have to eat something, and she asks him if he wants her to go hunt up some corpses, and he sort of like stares at her, and he was like, yeah, he was really just thinking about the salami or something in the fridge because that's dead too. I was like, yeah, anyways, so little things that I find humorous and amusing. But I did not like that it always felt a little like it was trying to convey a message but not quite getting there. Like I mentioned, the whole Jenny having like a break from her past and feeling like there were mistakes she made when she was young. Like, she ends up picking up this student because she doesn't want him to make the same mistakes she did. But I feel like it leaves so much stuff that is just implied that I never really got a strong sense of exactly what it is she felt she did wrong and exactly how she thinks other people should approach things, like, other than not always just resorting to violence. I feel like it seems like an overly simplistic answer for the setup that it seems to be trying to build. I mean, it's entirely possible I'm reading too much into it all. Like, maybe the story isn't really trying to give any kind of messages, which is perfectly fine. It's just that because of the way it was set up and the emphasis on like deviations from past choices and attitudes and stuff like that, I think it made it feel like I expected there to be more of a message, and because that wasn't really brought out very clearly, like, in some ways that was a little disappointing.